We've got three of us here, so I know. Okay, well, then I'm going to call the meeting to order.
We don't have our clerk.
Oh, okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Breeden.
Here.
Mr. Heyman.
Here.
Mr. Maurer.
Here.
Ms. Stevens.
Here.
4 present, we have a quorum.
A motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Seconded.
Please vote. 4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, we have closed session. We're a public comment on closed session. I see none, so we will go into closed session and we will come out at 6. Thank you all who aren't there. Thank you all. Okay, it looks like we're all out. So if we're ready, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And let me see. John, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the blessings that you have given us. Lord, we ask you that you guide us tonight in our decision-making and bring us unity as a council. Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, City Attorney's report.
Yes, I have a report. City council met in closed session to discuss 2 items. The first item is entitled City of Ridgecrest Ridgecrest Successor Agency versus Bosler. And I do have a report to bring out of closed session on that. I'm very pleased to report that the city has received a favorable ruling on that matter at the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals has ordered that the trial court enter an order in favor of the city on that matter, with the consequence that that the state will be required to refund the city about just under $3 million, as well as the attorney's fees that were spent on that matter that have not yet been reimbursed, and we will also seek appropriate interest. I am also very pleased to report that the Deputy Attorney General assigned to the matter has indicated that the state does not intend to appeal or challenge that decision in any way. So I'm optimistic that we can go ahead and get this resolved in the new year fairly quickly. I also need to report about the second item, which is listed as undisclosed anticipated litigation. On that matter, the City Council received a report from the City Attorney. No reportable action took place. Madam Mayor, that concludes the report.
Thank you, sir. The next item is presentations. And Mr. Patton, are you doing that? Thank you, sir.
All right, Madam Mayor, Council, Ron Strand, the City Manager, asked me to give you an update on all the parks projects that we have we're currently working on. So away we go. So if you look around City Hall, you'll see a bunch of tree stumps on the perimeter of trees that have died over the past several years. So we're going to do a removal process, which we've already removed. The trees and the stumps are still there to keep people from driving in and out. Excuse me. And we just accepted a bid to replace those trees. We're going to replace the trees, but to purchase the trees. So that's ongoing, obviously. Several years ago, we closed one of our parks called Helmer's Parks across the street next to the senior center. So we just completed a project removing all the dead trees in there because the water was actually shut off there. Those won't be replaced because there's no water connection and it's no longer a park. We completed a project at the circle right here between City Hall and the Kerr-McGee Center. I'm going to go through these quickly because we have pictures to show what we've done so far. And also the pillars you see out in front of City Hall and Kerr-McGee Center that were damaged during the earthquake. We did some repair work on those as well. We have an ongoing project at Freedom Park, a restroom next to the splash pad, and we'll see some pictures here in a second on that. We just signed an agreement with Johnson Controls to replace all of the AC units, HVAC units on both buildings, City Hall and the Kerr-McGee Center. They're 30 years old, and we spend a lot of money repairing them when they just really need to be replaced because they're about 0% efficient. We had a water tank that has rusted through at Leroy Jackson Park. We're going to be replacing that. And also during the earthquake, we had some concrete damage around this complex, again, City Hall and the Kerr-McGee Center, which we will be, we're collecting bids right now to make those improvements. So the City Hall tree removal, like I said, there's a lot of dead trees around this complex here, and you can see we've cut a lot of them down. They're going to backhoe those out and then replace them with new trees. We'll be doing that over the next couple of months. Again, this is Helmer's Park, like I talked about a minute ago. This is the park that was closed and the water was shut down. So you can see we've cut down all the dead trees, so they're gone and won't get blown over in the wind and hurt anyone or anything like that. So this is the circle project I was talking about right here in the center between the Kerr-McGee Center and the City Hall. If you guys remember that the circle there that says Ridgecrest Civic Center was half of the stucco was gone, and it was damaged pretty bad. And that was from years of water hitting the stucco, and it just peels off. And that used to be grass, so to prevent that from happening again, we removed the water, removed the grass, and replanted it in another area in our parks, and then replaced it with rock so we won't have water damage issues in the future. So as you can see, it turned out really well. Again, this is the pillars. These pillars that you see in front of City Hall and the Kerr-McGee Center, they were damaged during the earthquake. Huge cracks in a lot of them. So we had the cracks repaired and we had it restuccoed to match. Again, turned out great. This is the Freedom Park restroom project. So as you can see, if you look where the two porta potties are in the two lower pictures, and that's a picture of what's going to be placed there. That's the location. It'll be sitting right in front of that fence. And we did that for a couple reasons, the close proximity to the splash pad, but also we're going to back it right up to that fence you see there, what the splash pad equipment is. So there's a utility closet in the back of the restroom, so you'll have to enter into the gate through that lock to gain access to the utility closet, so a little bit of protection for the entrance. That we just got the plans back yesterday, the stamp plans for the restroom itself, and also from the architect that did the site plan. So we'll be moving forward pretty soon on that, getting the permit process going and having that open by the next splash pad season. Come on. We had a meeting last week with, you can see the engineer, Lauren Culpa's there, and myself and Nick. Contractor and the architect just laying out the plan for the restroom. And again, that'll be starting probably early next year. Moving that along. So we talked a little bit about the HVAC project. These are the current projects, and As you can see, we've kind of been piecing them together to keep them going, but thanks to the council, we're going to be able to replace those with some real energy efficient units. Those have a max life of about 20 years, and we're at 30. So it's something that desperately needed to be done. We're throwing money at these things like crazy. So we have here's the kind of the timeline for the renovation of the HVAC or the replacement. We've accepted, and the Johnson Control has accepted the proposal. So as you can see, they'll start in January without going through all that. They'll be complete with the project on the 6th, and hopefully have a completion acceptance by the city by April 3rd. By April 3rd, which is just in time before it gets nice and hot for us, and we know that what that's like. So this is the water tank at Leroy Jackson Park. These are original tanks, are probably 30 years old, and you can see it's just rusting through. So we're going to get that replaced. We're taking bids on that project right now, so we can get that taken care of. The cement, these are cracks in the cement. Some were existing, some occurred during the earthquake, and as you can see, it's pretty bad. So this project as well, and you can see on the right side there where the concrete has lifted, and we've grinded it down to try to keep the trip hazards down. But it's time to get these things fixed and replaced. So we're getting bids right now for fixing and replacing. The things that can be fixed will get fixed. The things that can't be fixed will get replaced. And we're gathering bids for that as well right now. That's it for me. Any questions?
How much of these projects, some of them you mentioned were earthquake damage, so will we be reimbursed those funds?
The earthquake damage projects were the pillars and the concrete, and hopefully we'll get the reimbursement of the 75% for those projects.
So I'm really glad to see all the work getting done. I just had a quick question on the circle out front of City Hall here.
Sure.
Is that curb going to get painted too?
We can.
I just happened to notice, the stucco looks fantastic. The job looks good, and we got that new black pavement on there. Mm-hmm. And I went, how it's like painting your house. You paint one thing, and the next thing you're like, oh well. But yeah, it's great. It looks fantastic, and I'm not criticizing it by no means. But I was like, no. It's when we put the presentation together, I looked at it and go, man, I wish we would have painted that curb first.
That's what I just said to him when you were I was like, are we painting the curb?
Yeah, we'll definitely take care of that. Any other questions? I just wanted, before I end, I wanted to end on, I guess, kind of a sad note, but for those that have been here long enough, there's a gentleman before me, before Jim Ponick, that was the director of Parks and Recreation, a gentleman by the name of Bill Bursey that passed away on December 12th after a long battle with prostate cancer. He was actually here for 29 years until he retired in 1997. So I just wanted to pass that on. Anything else? Yeah. Yeah, you were around. You were around when he was around the first time, right? Yeah. Yep. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay. Public comments on items not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on any item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to identify each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Okay, is anyone like to make public comment? I'm assuming, okay, I thought we were going to have something really unusual. Thank you, Dave.
We can't let that happen. My address is on file with the city clerk. And sorry to hear about Mr. Bursey. Yes, he was the original Parks and Recreation Director for the city. Okay. A couple of items that I've heard here or read about. Mayor, my condolences. I understand you got your phone hijacked. Sorry to hear that.
I just wanted to share it so people could understand how to avoid it. It was a learning experience.
Yeah, and I have a Leo Laporte, the tech guy, has a broadcast on the weekends. He's pretty savvy on all of this tech stuff and everything. And somebody this last weekend called in with the same problem. And what happened there was that some people that are unscrupulous, get some information on you or your phone, and they will call the carrier and ask for a new SIM card, whatever those are. I'm not really that savvy, but they will convince the carrier that they are you and have them send the SIM card to their address, and therefore they could put that in their phone and then imitate you, so to speak. Anyway, that's just an aside thing. I was happy to hear that we're getting the $3 million back from the state. I guess there was $3 million before that, making it a total of $6 million. Well, I'm not sure what's been happening with the $3 million we already got, but I'm wondering about what we were going to do with some of that money besides pay attorney fees. And I would suggest that perhaps we could look at refurbishing or redoing Penny Pool as a possible project, depending on what other strings are attached to it. So that's my input for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and I'm sorry. One other thing. I am feeling pretty good these days, and I was just telling my friend Skip Gorman before the meeting, had I started feeling better a few weeks earlier, I might have thrown my hat in the ring tonight.
Thank you, sir.
David Janis, Executive Director for the China Lake Alliance. I wrote out notes for tonight and promptly lost them, so I just jotted down some quick things. I'm going to wing it because I want to bring something positive to what I hope will be an overall positive meeting. Most of us are aware that China Lake, the Navy base, contributes roughly or impacts roughly 85% of the economy in this valley. All of us are aware that China Lake future was threatened by the earthquake since both of the epicenters were on the base and oriented to provide maximum damage to base buildings, laboratories, hangars, etc. The base sustained almost $4 billion. I think the latest estimate is at the 3.9 level, and that really threatened the future of the base. Well, here's the good news. A lot of stuff has happened in the last week, particularly yesterday, and there'll be another 2 things happening tomorrow and Friday that I want to touch on. Yesterday, just before noon, the Senate passed the National Defense Authorization Act. Remember from Schoolhouse Rock, you've got to have an authorization and an appropriation, both of which have to start in the House. The House had already done it. The Senate passed their version. They got reconciled. The reconciled version was already passed by the House. The Senate approved it yesterday, and in that was authorization for a little over $1.7 billion for fiscal year 20 for China Lake restoration, plus something that wasn't part of the earthquake restoration or recovery. It was $64.5 million to extend the runways and taxiways out there to make them capable for doing more modern aircraft, and although not absolutely required, it makes China Lake able to compete more effectively for the large F-35 work that may be coming, that if it's on the scale of the F-18 or larger, which we believe it will be, that by itself is in the $600 million a year range. So that was really good news. Almost simultaneously, that for those of you C-SPAN junkies, going on in the House was the appropriations side of that, the second half of your Schoolhouse Rocks. The appropriations for, you can authorize it, but if it's not appropriated, you don't get to spend it, and the authorization tells you what you have to spend it on. So the the House passed in two big bills both all of the defense appropriations for fiscal year 20 and the defense military construction. And in that was everything that was authorized for fiscal year 20, plus an unsuspected bonus that our representatives in negotiations were able to achieve for us. They advanced in the appropriation the fiscal year 21 military construction that is $1.216 billion. Now, that'll require authorization next year, but the Senate is going to take that up tomorrow. And if both of those go through, and we expect they will, we have assurances from the Senate that they expect that that's going to pass. We also have assurance from the President's congressional liaison, the senior one, that he is going to sign the bill. That's $3 billion coming to refurbish the base in the next 2 years. And there is more we're going to be working on in fiscal year 21, which we've already started on. That's expected to happen this week. It had to happen by Friday or the government shuts down unless they do another continuing resolution. But that's tremendous. And I wanted to take the opportunity to thank the folks on the dais, the city overall, the county. These are the folks that helped us in this effort for awareness and to secure the votes in this. The community organizations, CLA, EDC in particular. EDC actually organized an organizational letter endorsement from other cities in the county, particularly East Kern, Bakersfield, etc. But a lot of this was due to the strong bipartisan leadership of our four reps. That's Senator Feinstein and Senator Harris, Congressman McCarthy, who represents most of us in Kern, and Congressman Cook, who represents the San Bernardino and actually the majority of the base land range itself, and he goes all the way up into Mono. Among those four, the two that really led the bipartisan charge across both houses, can I have 30 seconds more? Yeah, I'm almost done. Both the House and Senate was Congressman McCarthy and Senator Feinstein. You recognize they're they're senior leaders in their party. So what does it mean for the community? The Navy stood strongly behind rebuilding China Lake in its entirety. That's a huge signal. Then Congress, by bipartisan vote, reaffirmed that. That means we have a pretty well assured future, near term and long into the future. Near term, because we're going to have a huge influx of construction crews and others in here over the next few years. By the way, that's a challenge for us. And far term also, it also means with regards to developments, we've talked about that a lot this year, that we're going to have documented top-level federal support for the continued future at China Lake that a developer is going to be interested in and say, hey, if they're going to put $3 or $4 billion here, that sends a message to me about the community and what our investment is going to continue to be. So we have challenges. Tonight's not the time to talk about them. I'm sure we'll take them up later. But we're up to those challenges, and I just thought thanks due to everybody, and hopefully when those things get signed by the end of the week, we can celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else under public comment? Okay, then we will go to council announcements. Dave, I'm going to go first because I got a personal letter today from Senator Feinstein, and I want to share this. I'm not bragging here, so please don't think it, but we've done a lot of talking on the telephone. She's given me her cell phone in both office and at home, and we've done a lot of personal talking. I've gotten to respect the woman, and I appreciate her caring for us. And so I'd like to share this letter with you. It said, Dear Peggy, I wanted to share the good news they were able to secure $3 billion for earthquake recovery efforts at China Lake in this year's governmental funding bills. I know how important China Lake is to Ridgecrest's economy, and I have enjoyed our conversations since the earthquake in July. Kevin McCarthy and I were able to secure the full amount assessed by the Navy for repairs this year, and I hope we will be able to get the base back in shape as soon as possible. You're doing a good job, and I look forward to continuing to work with you to ensure that China Lake and the city of Ridgecrest are fully rebuilt. All the best, and she wrote some personal comments down here, which I'm not going to share, but I think it says a lot for all of us when she said all along this is going to be a bipartisan effort. Both Kevin and I will work to make sure China Lake is whole. And she wrote letters of support to everybody that she, as Dave has referred to, everybody in the world. And I'm not being facetious because I saw about 11 letters. Okay, so there were more than 11 people in the world that went out from her and from Kevin, both jointly and separately, urging the funding of this. So don't despair because things are very good, and I'm going to put this up there so you can all see it. But I am so very proud of Kevin McCarthy and Dianne Feinstein. A Democrat and Republican working together in this day and age is hard to find, and I'm so very proud that they decided they could do it and should do it because it's what's best for China Lake and this community. And so I want to say publicly thank you to both of them and all their staffs and the work that was done here to make it happen. Is there any other council announcements? Okay, we are going to go into the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by city staff and will be approved in one motion if no member of the council or the public wishes to comment or ask questions. If comments or discussion is desired by anyone, that item will be removed from the consent calendar and be considered separately with public input before action is taken. Item number 1. Proposed action to approve draft minutes of the City of Ridgecrest City Council Successor Redevelopment Agency Financing Authority Housing Authority regular meeting dated November 20th, 2019. Item number 3, proposed action to approve draft minutes of the City of Ridgecrest City Council Successor Agency Financing Authority Housing Authority meeting dated December 4th and approve a resolution confirming the continuance of a local emergency. Is there anyone in the council who would like to have any of these items pulled? Anyone in the public? Okay, a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. 4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, discussion and action items. Review and approve recognized obligation payment schedule ROPS 2021 and administrative budget for fiscal year 2021 of the successor agency to the Ridgecrest Redevelopment Agency and approval of resolution. Ma'am.
Yeah, I'll start it off. Madam Mayor, members of City Council, tonight is for review and approve the city's recognized obligation payment schedule. As you know, in 2012, the redevelopment agency was dissolved and the successor agency was formed to oversee the city's enforceable obligations. Last year, the oversight committee was transferred from the city to the county. This year, we still have 3 items on the enforceable obligations: the $2.9 million bond payment, the wastewater loan that is $1.4 million, and then an admin fee. What we'd like to do, the reason why we placed it on the discussion was due to the resolution of the lawsuit, of the Monte Santos lawsuit with the AMG loan. We would like the council, when they approve the resolution approving our ROPS, to allow staff to add on there the $2.9 million AMG loan, as well as approximately $300,000 in attorney fees, and then interest on the $2.9 million payment that the city made in protest to the state. back in 2014, make those adjustments to Exhibit A. So with that, I'd like council to make a motion to approve that resolution so we can forward the ROPS to Kern County and then to Department of Finance.
Okay,
I'm just here if you have any questions about it.
okay. Is there questions from council first? Is there questions from the public? Wow. Okay.
I
Motion?
move approval with the additions to Exhibit A as stated by the city manager.
Second.
Please vote. When it comes up,
Boxes aren't up.
he needs a roll call vote. Mayor Breeden,
Aye.
Ms. Stevens,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay. The next item, discussion and provide guidance to the cities represented on the Board of the Union Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. Sir?
Okay, so what I'd like to do is touch base on a prior meeting. We had some questions from Councilman Stevens, and so I'd like to address a few of those questions real quick so we can catch up on that. So she had a question in regards to the GSP or the budget of the GSP in regards to having litigation fund. So there is an amount that is put into the fund for litigation. It's not a big amount, and so it's so there is a small amount that's in it for litigation at this time. The reserve question, there is no reserve because overall the GSP budget is overdrawn at this point in time. And I think the third one was the 1% growth, which that has been answered a couple times in recent, but I'll go over it again. So it's been answered by the GA. So in regards to 1% growth of the community, that is not in any way limiting growth of the community to 1%. So if the base was, I'll just give you an example that we used at the town hall meeting the other night that was brought up. If there's a growth of 3% or the base is in a boom, that growth will meet, we'll meet the growth needs. There's not a limitation. So the 1% was just a average over decades of the growth in the valley here. And everyone that has lived here for any length of time knows that the growth in this town is very cyclic and depends upon, the base growth in itself. So when the base is doing well, we grow, and when the base is in a slump or decline, we tend to feel that too. So, but that was the three main questions. Any other additional information? We had a town hall meeting last week. The primary focus was on the GSP itself. The groundwater sustainability plan is out, and so it was reviewed. Overall, the meeting went well. There's a GA meeting tomorrow, and so after tomorrow's meeting, then I will report back on any current information after that. So,
Is there any actions being taken tomorrow?
not that I know of. So there'll be discussions, but so any questions from fellow council? Do you have any? No question? Okay. That's all I have.
Okay,
We wanted to see if there's any public.
I'm going to. Is there anyone who would like to ask a question? Okay. Well, then we will go to the next item. Okay. Request.
Get your mic closer. You're not getting picked up.
I'm sorry. Request for authorization to record final track map 7188, Unit B.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, City Council, tonight we're asking the council to authorize the recordation of our final track map for 7188 Unit B. We have everything that is necessary per our municipal code, which allows us to present the map to you tonight for recordation. What we're asking the council to do tonight, the actions are to accept the necessary improvement security in the amount of $15,430. The improvement security is for any outstanding improvements that haven't been completed at this time. The Subdivision Map Act permits developer to post securities for any improvements that he wasn't able to get accomplished prior to the map recording. We're also asking that you authorize the city manager to sign the improvement agreement. We are also asking council to accept the street improvements and offers of dedication that are made on the map. We're also asking authorization for myself as a city engineer, city clerk, and planning commission secretary to sign the final map, and direct the city clerk to record the final map, 7188 Unit B, with the county recorder's office. So everything is in place per our municipal code. We have improvement securities. We have subdivision guarantee. We have also, this project has been annexed into our lighting landscape maintenance district, so everything's intact where I can say that it's ready for you folks to authorize the recordation of the final map.
Okay. I would like to, is the developer here? No. Okay, well then I won't ask if he has anything he'd like to say. Tammy, are you here? No. Okay. Is anybody from the council would like to say or ask any questions?
Nope.
Public? Okay, motion.
I move approval.
Second.
Roll call vote again, he says. Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens, sorry.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay. All right, the next item. Boy, we're whipping through these. Y'all must be here for some reason. Okay. Authorization for the city manager, Ron Strand, to sign the notice of completion for the CBDG rehab project, for the city clerk to file the notice of completion, and the city staff to release retention in the amount of $10,798.90 and with withholdings of $10,000 for the labor compliance issues to the contractor PVC Plumbing and Mechanical within 30 days after the recordation of the notice of completion. Sir.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, this is a procedural item that we go through for projects that have been completed. The notice of completion is simply the city's drawing a line in the sand to give notice to anybody that is materials men, laborers, contractors, subcontractors, to make your claim now for any claims you may have and file those claims. So it's just giving notice that we're cutting bait and we're going to pay this prime contractor off for his final payment. The accounting on the project looks like we saved you about 15% on it. So we came in under budget for you, and we're saving you about 15% on this project. So what we're asking you to do tonight is to authorize the release of retention at $10,000, $10,798.90, as well as another $10,000 that was retained due to a certified payroll issue with the county. So there's no extra funding, no extra funds necessary. These all come out of what was been allocated, so we're still about 15% under budget on this project.
Okay, is there any council comments or questions?
Always glad to come under.
Any public questions or comments? Okay, motion.
I move approval.
I second.
We're going to have to do a roll call vote. Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Just want it noted, I voted against these things. They only work half the time.
Okay, item number 9, authorization for city manager to enter agreement with Buxton for economic development service and obligate funds into fiscal 21. Sir? What?
It's right there. Madam Mayor, members of City Council, city staff has been researching Buxton for well over a year. Buxton provides analytical services to help cities understand what people purchase within their community and help identify businesses that could match the needs of the community. We have entered this, or we've been working with 3 other organizations within the community to be able to share this service. One would be the IWVDC, the Chamber of Commerce, and the RACBB. Each of us would have a unique need for this service separately and collectively. So what I have tonight is I have Lisa Hill from Buxton here that is going to do a short presentation on the service that they provide, and then we could discuss it further. Lisa,
Thank you,
go ahead.
Ron.
Yeah.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, staff, and community, good evening. Again, I'm Lisa Hill. I'm the Senior Vice President for the Buxton Company in the Community ID Division. I've been with the company about 14 years, so it's an honor to be in front of you and to present this opportunity. I'll give you a little background about Buxton. Buxton is the industry leader in what's called consumer analytics and site selection. Essentially, what that means to you is we currently our clientele is about 4,000 retail and restaurant concepts. So Trader Joe's, California Pizza Kitchen, Costco, In-N-Out Burger, you name it, big box, small footprint, sort of everything in between. We also work with hotels. We also work with healthcare providers. So we help them to make strategic location decisions in the heart of their specific consumer or patient types. We help them to do advanced marketing. So how do I message my customer through the right media channel? How do I better understand merchandise intelligence? So how do I mix my merchandise at a store level? How does that differ from Southern California to Northern California? And so in the last 15 years, we have really created a reverse engineer to work with the public sector. We realize that we have a very unique insight into how a retailer selects a site and essentially what you guys need to know about yourselves in order to be very proactive in terms of your recruitment strategy. So we have become the leading analytic provider to the California communities, over 350 communities we're working for currently. We have helped them successfully land over 35 million square feet of retail space in the last 5 years. That's about $6 billion in increased annual sales tax among our client cities in California. So we do have a very specific strategy for working with you to identify retail concepts that fit. We look at, number one, their location strategy. So are they making a location decision about this market, about the California market in the next 24 to 36 months? We look at their existing locations. We look at how many comparable locations they have on the ground in a market similar to your market. Do those store locations currently overperform? We also look at, do you have enough of their lookalike customers? So as consumers, knowingly or not, we're constantly giving away information about ourselves, who we are, what we spend, sort of where we're going. So Buxton utilizes that analytic data. So just think about your credit card swipes. Think about what you buy online versus what you purchase on the ground. Think about your GPS data, so your cell phone. As you create trip records all over the community, we're able to capture that information. That allows us to better understand by household the consumer types that you have in this market. We then cross-reference that with our proprietary database of retailers to identify the best concepts that fit. Another thing that we're going to be able to do, and something that's pretty exciting about the growth that you're experiencing, is because we have transactional level credit card data and because we have GPS data, we're going to be able to not only quantify the resident population, the daytime population, but we're going to be able to quantify it. There it is. Sorry, I was kind of going through it. No problem. We're going to be able to quantify your visitor population. So these are some things I've already covered. It wasn't coming up. Let me just get caught up. So here's how we go about quantifying that. We use customer drive time. We look at minutes versus miles. We identify what your core market trade area is. So how far are customers driving within this market? Where are they going outside this market? What's the retail market condition overall? And what's your customer profile? So again, demographics is only telling one part of your story. Really looking at a household level to identify that, yes, these two gentlemen are exactly the same demographically. However, as they consume, they're very different. So Steve is a Whole Foods customer. Jim is a Walmart's customer. So we represent Whole Foods. We also represent over 4,000 other retail and restaurant concepts. We know what their lookalike customers are. We know what they need to be. We know what the value of that a customer needs to be in order to be able to validate an overperforming location. So if there are enough Whole Foods customers, or if there are enough people that look just like Steve to warrant a Whole Foods location, we're able to identify that. We're then able to say for Whole Foods, what can they expect in terms of their competition in this market? What's their preferences in terms of co-tenancies and adjacencies? What's their preferences in terms of accessibility, traffic counts, visibility, design standards? All of those questions that your staff is answering or needs to answer in order to answer the question on behalf of Whole Foods of so what? Just saying, my mayor would love to have a Trader Joe's is not going to compel Trader Joe's to come here. So we really want to identify what is Trader Joe's criteria. What do they need to see to make a speed to market decision about you? I went through already the identifying process of really how we go about that is looking at expansion strategy. We're looking at, and we're having some technical difficulties here. We're looking at their existing store locations. We're also looking at their lookalike customers and some of the other criteria that I mentioned. Everything that we do gets uploaded to Scout. Scout is your analytic portal. It's password protected. It's your link to our 250 different data sources in real time. Another thing that I think would be exciting to understand is the new mover profile. Who's moved into this market in the last 24 to 36 months? How do they differ from people who have lived in Ridgecrest for the last 10 years? How can we, from a city management standpoint, understand how to better service them? So how's your market changing? What's the growth look like? What's that predictive growth look like? We're going to use Scout for all of that so that, again, you never have a shelf life on data. You're getting data in real time. Every 8 weeks, you're getting rolling real-time snapshots. We're also helping you to visualize the market. So when you're pitching retail concepts, you're able to say, okay, I do have a site at 123 Main. I have a motivated seller. I know what your operating cost is. I know what your overhead cost is. Here's the value of our market. Here's our price per square foot. You have 15 store locations on the ground in a market that looks just like our market, and those stores overperform. And we've scored that site based on demographics, psychographics, accessibility, traffic, all of those variables. We're going to be able to, once we have that information, reach out individually to the top 20 retailers that fit your market. So we're going to be helping you to get in front of them. There are 2 main conferences. Actually, there are 2 regional conferences in California. There's one conference in May. I met many of you at the conference last year. We'll help you with that appointment setting process. We'll help you be compelling during that pitch presentation and really help that retailer visualize themselves in your market. We also have a City Seeking Retail platform, so if it's part of our customer profile or our customer roster, we can put you together with them directly. And then here's that visitor piece. Leveraging credit card data at a transactional level and leveraging GPS data to identify what's that cyclical population of people that are in the market that maybe don't live or work here. So where does that phone rest at night? And that will help us really to understand those business questions, help us to push hotels, help us push entertainment value for your market. So who is my visitor? What is their value? What are their psychographic profile and lifestyle individual details? And then what's the overall value for you? So can we push that? The last thing is the support your local business. So we created a local store marketing tool for you. It will give your individual businesses the ability to geofence around their own store location. It'll help identify that, okay, I've got 3,200 households within this market, but only 1,500 of them are my core customers. It'll help them from a marketing standpoint. So this is something that Target uses, that Papa John's uses, that Subway uses to market their individual stores. So they'll have the ability, again, to geofence around their own store. And if that cell phone enters that geofenced area, they can capture that. They can send them something on social media. They can send them a TripAdvisor. And if they enter that store, they can track that progress in real time. So the technology is very cool. It's also very easy to use. Everything that we do is cloud-based. So as long as you have an internet connection, you have access to that. We're going to dedicate a team to you. You'll have GIS support. You'll have data and research. You'll have an account manager. That's your day-to-day person in our office that's going to help you with the outreach process as well as the internal. You'll have a scout support person, and you'll have myself. And all of that is kind of execution. So once we have the data, once we understand your market, we work with you long-term to make sure that you're making those contacts, that you're working with your existing businesses, and that you're practicing smart growth behavior. So again, retail recruitment, customizing your market management team, a couple of case studies. Ron asked me to be very brief with this. So a couple of case studies, Porterville, California, pretty similar to you. Their perception versus reality was very different when it came to retail. A lot of retailers understood them to be very blue collar, and they weren't getting concepts like Panera Bread or some of those that they wanted. So we were able to disprove some of that. We were able to work with them to attract Kohl's, Famous Footwear, Marshall's, several new restaurant concepts, and have been very successful long-term working with them. Pasadena, no shortage of retail there. They use us to elevate their profile, to compete with Santa Monica, who's also a client, to compete with Burbank. And they've been able to not only job create, but really elevate their profile. Hesperia, again, similar to you demographically, I would say, a much bigger community, but they've been able to recruit over 700,000 square feet of new retail. They have much more plans, and they're a long-term client of ours as well. So you guys have the case studies in front of you. I think your staff has been more than due diligent. We've actually been talking to you guys for about 10 years, not 1 year. But over the years, I think you guys have come to appreciate what it is that we do, and I'm open for any questions that anyone might have.
Okay, questions from council?
Can you talk about the benefit to the IWV, EDC, the RACBB, and the chamber?
Yeah, a lot of things. So because we're not just a retail company, because we have those healthcare data sources, because we have industrial data sources. Scout is over 250 different data sources that we buy and update. So it's not just what your purchases are from a consumer standpoint. It really looks at your overall lifestyle, who you are. So looking at aging populations, looking at known presence of children, that city planning part of it. Labor pool, so educated labor pool. How far are people coming to work? Where are they going to work? And so because we have all of that information in-house, there are many different applications. For the chamber, it's all about business retention. For the city, it may be all about attraction. For the EDC, it may be a mixture of the two and job creation. So we want to be very mindful of each entity and what their specific goals are. And I've met with each entity already, and we've talked a little bit about how we're going to work with them individually and together.
I have a question. Considering we are going to have a general increase in population in this next 2 or 3 years,
Sure.
for sure, how do you can tell us what happened yesterday, and you can tell us what's happening today. How do you project for tomorrow, given the information that you have?
So we'll go back 2 years, and that's kind of as far back as we'll typically go. And then we'll look forward 2 years. But it's based on kind of what's happening now. So as people enter your market, you're going to have a lot of jobs related to this redevelopment of the base, I'm assuming. So you're going to have a lot of people that will be staying here during the week and may not have a permanent residence here, I'm assuming. So those people will be quantified. And then how do they behave at home? So so if you think about it, if you look at demographics, you've got age, sex, race, income, education. Your income level is not going to tell me hardly anything about who you are as a consumer, whether you're going to shop in my store, whether you're going to dine in my restaurant. But because we're experienced Western partner, we're looking at an Equifax file by household. So we understand the financial stress indicators, the debt to income ratio of that household, and then specifically, how do they behave at their own address level? We understand second homeowners. We understand, Airbnb customers, because we've got the ability to sort of follow them. I know it sounds very Big Brother, and it is, but the reality is before Bass Pro goes and makes a $30 million real estate decision, they need to know, do they have enough customers within 90 minutes to warrant that store? And that's the type information that we have, and that's the reverse engineer of that. I will say we're not spying on any one person. You're all part of a segmentation. I don't really care what Lindsay Stevens is at 123 Main. What I care about is, are there enough people that look just like her to warrant an overperforming location? So we segment the market, and we understand who the core segments are and what that means to you.
Okay. Any other council questions or comments?
I assume that your committee's looked at this in depth.
Yes, I've actually been meeting with her ever since I've been going to ICSC, and actually brought the idea to the table because I had friends from other communities that have used Buxton services before and highly recommended them.
I have a quick question. So
Sure.
in a situation like ours where we may have a high influx of temporary workforce coming in, how do you take that into account with the numbers as far as that's going to be a temporary thing and then it's going to go back down again, and separate that from the actual growth rate of the community?
The reality of retail today is it is a shorter shelf life. They're not looking at long-term leases anymore. They're looking at really shorter-term 5-year leases. Most of our retail partners are not looking to do 10, 15-year leases because the way that retail is changing and all the omni-channel and all the online, there are a lot of folks that are saying, we want to do 2 and 5 because we may want to shift gears and do more of a touch and feel and an online presence and have a smaller operating cost and employ fewer people. So the reality is that's already how it is 5 years is about the length of the sales projected volume we can do.
Okay, thanks.
I would like to ask the partners that we're asking to come into this venture, would any of you like to address what you see? I know the EDC and the Chamber and the RICVB. If you have something to say, we'd like to hear that too, please.
Yeah, I'm Scott O'Neill, Executive Director of the EDC. And we really support this project. I mean, our community works a lot on anecdotal information. And being able to get quantifiable data to help us make our decisions, I think, is an imperative. The base is 85% of our economic base. And, it's got probably almost $500 million in salaries that come into this community every year because of the base. Wouldn't it be nice to know how that money is being spent, how much is being spent in town, how much is being spent out of town? How can we help our own retailers tune their own sales to be able to improve their retail in their stores? It's going to help our tax base. It's going to help us grow and figuring out where and how we need to grow. And, we talk a lot about, I'd like to see this restaurant, I'd like to see that store come in, but it's all anecdotal. And so this is going to help us quantify that information so that we can really tune our growth in a fashion that's going to really benefit the community at large and for a longer period of time. I think we do have an opportunity with the transient workforce that's going to come in with the base rebuild, and it's going to help us understand exactly what did that do to our community. It's going to help us understand how many ate in restaurants, how many stayed in hotels, how many, what did they buy while they were in town, not only for their work, but for their own personal needs. And so, I think it's going to be able to help us really understand what the overall value of that reconstruction meant to the valley as opposed to just the base. And we are completely on board. We really want to understand where the leakage is in our community. We want to understand, how better we can grow. And we want to, I think, even more importantly, help work with our local retailers right now to improve their sales, because that's helping our tax base immediately. And so the EDCs, we're planning on investing in this project, and we are planning on using it, very aggressively. And we look forward to the consulting service that Lisa and her team is going to provide us to help us understand and better to do the analytics for our community. So we're on board, and I really want to encourage you to vote affirmatively for this project.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any questions of Scott? Okay, is there any, before we we'll have the public in just a minute. Is there any other of the organizations that would like to speak? Okay, then please come forward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. Richard Wagner, 408 South Lincoln. I just have one question. This is kind of a data with retailers and the community. Would an Indian casino be considered a retailer, and would you look at that data as well?
Yeah, we're actually doing that in Porterville right now. Porterville's Indian casino is part of their overall economic development strategy, and we're leveraging the GPS data specific to that location. So everything that goes to that location, and then what the cross-pollination is between what's happening at the casino and what happens within the town of Porterville. So are they leaving the casino, or are they going there and never going and never really doing anything else? And so that's part of it.
Perfect. I think that would be a great help with our community at this time. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Dave Matthews here. The young lady admitted it, something that concerned me. She said it's already Big Brother out there, so I am glad that she's aware of it as well as I am. There's too much information about what I do. Not necessarily me, but people like me, which are not too many of them around here, I guess. But anyway, that all really kind of bothers me. And I also think that we're missing some stuff here that people can use. Retail is one thing, but it's not the whole panacea. I don't know how many times I've been up here and mentioned that this is a one-company town, and we need diversification. Well, part of the problem is the state as well as the city, but because I think the city is really not concentrating on that. There are services that are needed around here, and this goes to the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. O'Neill's organization, and so on. There are services around here which are not available, which need to be considered. And I'll give you some examples. Seniors and a lot of other people need services like plumbers that will come out for a reasonable fee and not charge you $100 for a 5-minute job only because they have the equipment. There's other services like yard work. I recently found I had need of some help, and I recently found that help by a after-hours guy whose name I got via my friends. They're not in the phone book. They're not anywhere. You can't find them online. You need to start considering these kind of things. And the other thing is recyclables, computer products. I have a whole bunch of recyclable stuff, but I don't know where to take it. There's no place in town that will take it. There used to be places you could send it off to, and they would give you a few cents on a pound or something like that. But I don't know what to do with this stuff. I guess eventually I'm going to end up throwing it in the trash. I don't know, because there's nowhere else I know to take it or put it. We need to reconsider exactly the services that we have available for everybody, not just seniors, but everybody. So that's my 2 cents worth today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Council. I'm going to come at things a little bit differently from this young man over here. What she says is actually true. I mean, she's the perfect person, or the company is, seeing that the city of Ridgecrest doesn't have an economic development person to go drive some economic development. So just to kind of throw something out there, which I think you're all going to find extremely interesting, because I found it very, very interesting, is I did a very big detailed, pretty deep, detailed economic study, which shows what Walmart does for the city of Ridgecrest for the tax year of 2019 and 2020, and what my favorite topic, the casino, will do for the city of Ridgecrest on an economic basis, comparing apples and apples. So what you're going to find very interesting here is if you put all the property taxes, all the taxes that Walmart pay that are billed, this is all public record stuff, there's no lying here. If you take everything that the county bills, Walmart for 2019 and 2020 is paying $188,687.83. Sorry, excuse me. Let me recap that. The city of Ridgecrest, right, let me start again. Walmart's tax bills, all the taxes Walmart pays, which are billed down there in Bakersfield, is $188,687.83. And of that $188,000, does anybody have an idea how much Ridgecrest gets out of that? Well, I'm going to tell you, it's the princely sum of $12,210.12. So what does that mean? It means there's a structural problem in the taxation in the city of Ridgecrest, so that Kern County's taken all your money and there's not enough left over coming over the city of Ridgecrest. So when the city of Ridgecrest was created back in the 60s, I think it was, the county, I think, generously threw the city of Ridgecrest a bone and said you can have the princely sum of approximately about 6.5% of the total tax bill generated here. Where am I going with this? It's very, very simple. If you take the casino, what the land's going to cost, what the improvements are going to be, the tax bill in year one, from inception, the taxes that the casino will pay, if it was a Walmart, would be about the same at $168,000. Of that, 1% goes to general local government. And so if the casino was the same as Walmart, the city would receive the princely sum of $649.61 in property taxes. With the municipal services agreement that we negotiated with the city, in year one, for fire, police, problem gambling, and critical services, the casino is going to pay $528,000. It means a gain versus a Walmart or the equivalent of $527,350. So I think you folks have got a good deal here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I just want to make one other point for you to consider as you deliberate. We talked a lot about retail, and I like Dave's comment about brought in our industrial base. Well, industries in this town also use credit cards, and so it's going to help us be able to get information on what they are buying to see if we can't use that information then to attract other businesses in town. I mean, we've got Searles Valley, we've got the base, we've got other industrial partners in this town. It would really be nice to be able to understand what their needs are and then be able to see if we can't create a market for new businesses in town. So I'm excited because the base, for example, spends almost $30 million a year on credit card sales. And I'd like to be able to see if we can't figure out a way to keep more of that local. But we can't do that without data. So I'm really, really wanting to encourage you to really approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Lee, just a quick question. What sort of and these are just more administrative questions. What sort of an agreement are we looking at in terms of years? What are we going to be using as the metric to determine that the money is spent wisely? Are we going to be looking at in other words, this is a city thing we're doing. I mean, granted, it will help our retailers and money will flow back that way. But what I'm looking to find out is what are we obligating ourselves for how long, and what are we going to use as the metric to determine that the money is being spent wisely for the taxpayers and that our return is sufficient to cover the cost or hopefully be better. And last but not least, lie and get us an In-N-Out burger.
Would you like to address any of that?
I can take care of that.
Go ahead.
Mr. Leahy, it is a one-year contract. It'll be running the calendar year. We're going to do a split invoice. We'll pay for half of it this fiscal year, the second half the second year. The IWVDC is going to provide $15,000 for FY20. The city will match it with 10, and then the city will be on the hook for $25,000 for FY21. What we're going to allow is we're going to allow the 4 entities full access to this service. So the Chamber of Commerce can use it as a retention tool for their customers, the other businesses that sign up for them. IWVDC can use it. RACBB can use it for, if they do an event, who's coming. If the Petroglyph Festival, they can identify during that day, where are their folks coming from? And they can then either market more in that area or market more in other areas to drag other people here. The city's purpose is that we want to be able to identify what people are doing within our community, because we've been working very hard the last couple of years trying to recruit businesses. I do have a full-time person now who will be assigned to this service to be able to utilize it. So we're hoping to be able to figure out our community. Like you said, it's anecdotal. We think we understand what our citizens are doing, but we really don't know. And so through this, we'll be able to hopefully use this data, let's say, for instance, to get another clothing store in town. We have been to several of these retail conferences, and each retail, especially clothing, has a certain demographic that you have to meet. And sometimes we meet it, sometimes we don't. But can we use this data to maybe to attract another business here? So I think at the end of the day, staff will take a look at, the value of that. We'll look at, we have an ICSC conference coming up in May. We will be attending that conference. We'll be hopefully utilizing some of this data to be able to attract a business, because you just can't go there and say, well, we have a base, we have highly educated folks that make a lot of money. They don't really care to hear that. They want to know the particulars of what they're doing. And we also feel on the other end of the spectrum is that as we're recruiting businesses in, we feel we're also compelled to help our current businesses with retention and help them with what products they're selling. So we're going to be looking at that also. We're going to be reaching out to our retail, hopefully, with the Chamber of Commerce, to be able to provide this service to our local retail outlets so they can improve, their sales and understand who their customers are. And we'll make it available, and if they, I hope they use it, it'd be great. If not, the city is going to move forward. I got a full-time staff that's going to be able to use this software, this function, and hopefully over the next year we're going to be able to identify a little bit more of our purchasing habits.
Thank you.
Okay, next, please.
Hello, my name is Jeff Scott. Address is on file. I believe you answered the question I was going to bring up, exactly how much money we were talking about spending on this, and I think I heard you say $25K in the first year.
Yeah, it's a $50,000 contract for 1 year. So
okay.
We pay $25,000 this fiscal year, which ends June 30th, and then the $25,000 the next year.
Okay. Well, that seems like a reasonable investment for something of this magnitude, if it can really help the city better understand the businesses and the tax base. A secondary point I wanted to make is from the day that the casino project first came up, I felt that this was the piece that was lacking. We seem to have no independent data to assess, does this project even make economic sense for our community? Unfortunately, we had to rely entirely on the reports generated by Nigel White's chosen contractors. And as an engineer whose job it is to understand assumptions and research data to make sure it's valid, I've read the reports that his groups have provided and found them to be filled with undocumented assumptions, faulty analogies, et cetera, that I don't think they really apply to our community. So I'm hopeful that this project here could perhaps provide some better data so we can make an informed decision before we reopen this topic again. Thank you.
We're hoping that if it's a success, then the other entities will be able to come to the table with funding, because right now, the more that we're involved, the less it costs, because not one entity can afford the $50,000 on their own.
Hi, Lisa.
How are you?
Lisa was right when she said she's been talking to the city of Ridgecrest for 10 years, because we brought this to the city 10 years ago, and I congratulate you guys because you found the solution that we couldn't find, which it was we couldn't figure out a way to fund this. But I'm also happy to know that they've actually improved it a great deal. The thing that excites me the most is the local store marketing component. And I see the president of the chamber over there and the executive director of the chamber. And that's something that didn't come up to the chamber originally when we talked about this. But I think that will actually get the chamber much more excited about this program, other than the fact that the chamber is suffering with financial issues too. The other area that Lindsay will tell you when you go to ICSC, when you walk in with somebody like Lisa and they know that we've invested in a company like Buxton, we have instant credibility that we wouldn't have otherwise. The other issue that we face, and you guys will face, and I know you'll get a call first thing tomorrow morning by a certain individual in this community that says, helping the retail base is not going to help the community. You're just going to cut the pie up into smaller slices for everybody else. But the last time when I was doing heavy investigations in this community, in 2014, we had the highest income per capita in Kern County, but we had the lowest sales tax per capita, meaning people spent the lowest amount of sales tax in our city of any residents in Kern County. So we are not capturing, leakage is killing us, and we're not capturing that. And it's for a multitude of reasons, and I think this information will help us and expand that number significantly. But the other thing I was curious, have you guys addressed the Flex Friday and the how that impacts the city of Ridgecrest? Because I don't think anybody's ever took a serious analytical look at how much Flex Friday impacts the overall sales tax in this community. And I think that needs to be a component when we move forward with this this analysis. But I absolutely think the council should move forward, and I compliment you for finding a way to fund it. And I was coming up to tell you that you haven't really told the public that you're getting help funding, and I don't think it was clear, but I think in the last two speakers you did. So thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, any more council comments?
I'm ready for a motion.
I move approval.
I second. Is it going to work this time?
We're going to do a roll call vote. Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Mr. Maurer.
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay. Congratulations to everybody involved making this happen. Great job.
Break for maybe 5 minutes before we get into this next one.
Okay. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break, but first let me tell you what we had talked about, how we're going to work this. We're going to give everybody 5 minutes to speak. If you're one of the candidates, come on up. If you're one of the public, come on up. This is your opportunity to sing your song or your opportunity to voice your opinion, and we'd like to have you do so. And if 1,000 people come up, I don't think we're going to be able to give you 5 minutes each, but we'll try to do it as long as we can. So let's take 5 minutes and we'll come back. next item is going to be what I assume you all are here for, is to appoint a member of the City Council to fill the vacancy, including swearing in of appointed member if desired. Do you want to say something, Keith, at all?
Well, want may be a strong word, but for
Would
this,
you?
but I'm certainly happy to. So I'll deliver the staff report. At the November 20th, 2019 council meeting, the City Council declared former council member Wallace Martin's seat vacant. At the December 4th meeting, the City Council decided to fill the vacant council position by appointment in accordance with state law. And the city directed staff to proceed with the schedule for the appointment. Citizen service applications were made available at the city's website, and a notice of the application process was posted on the city's websites and social media. The application period was closed at noon on December 16th, and on that day the city clerk posted a list of persons who had filed applications. Council members received applications for their review throughout the application period, and some of them elected to contact and speak with some of the applicants. So here we are tonight to consider this appointment. We have a list of 17 candidates. There is no set process for how to do this. This is simply a motion in minute order as with other items. You can, if people are interested in speaking, you can have that. If they're not interested in speaking, they don't have to. We would also, of course, have to receive public comment as well. So, Madam Mayor, how would you like to proceed?
I would like to ask everyone who would like to speak to come up. You have 5 minutes. If you are one of the candidates, speak as you wish, whatever you wish to say. If you are a member of the public, please come up and say whatever you have to say, and we will try to get this over before midnight. So, and for those of you who are one of those 17, you'll know what it's like. Okay, come on forward, please. Please identify yourself.
Were you going to give me a minute?
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
I just want to take a minute and clarify something that came up in the last meeting when we decided to go for appointment instead of election. One of the members of the public castigated a couple of our employees for giving us wrong information. Our city manager estimated $60,000 or $70,000 to have an election, and it would take at least I think 127 days. Anyway, a person challenged that, said he thought it only cost $25,000. He even sent us emails saying that he got information from the registrar of voters saying it would only cost $25,000 because he was basing his figures on $5 per person that votes. In a citywide election, which all of our seats are citywide, the registrar of voters has to send out a packet to every registered voter. We have 14,939 registered voters in the city of Ridgecrest. So the same person he was quoting to us saying our people were wrong, Jackie St. George, assistant registrar of voters, she sent us an email. It says you have 14,939 registered voters. The estimated cost would be $5 per voter, which calculates to $74,695. I would suggest you round it off to $75,000. And please understand, this is just an estimate. We can't say only 3,000 people are voting, so we'll just send out 3,000 packets. We have to send out 15,000. And I just want to set the record straight that our staff did give us accurate information. And that was one of the decisions, one of the reasons we made the decision to go ahead and appoint instead of put out for an election. Thank you.
Thank you, Rika, for clarifying that. No one seemed to understand that what Mr. Neal said was an error, and many, many, many people commented on various entities
social media,
saying that we were wrong and shame on us. So thank you, Rika, for giving us correct information. Okay, now we will open it up to the public, and if you would please identify yourself.
I'm Marty Frisbee, and I've worked on the base for 40 years and lived here a lot longer than that. I've known and worked with Diane Fouché for at least half of that career, 20 years, and I'm here to talk to her about her tonight. Late in my career, I got the real happy opportunity to do a slam bang project that had to be done quickly with innovative contracting techniques. Scared me to death because I knew that it took 6 months to do contracts and we needed to get them within a week. Went and talked to Diane, who'd by then been promoted way up into the echelons of the contracting group, and she took me on, willing to help. She seemed to be having fun doing that. I found a really good, helpful, well-researched set of advice coming from her. Never before had I heard, "That won't work, but you might try this." It's the second part of the sentence that was refreshingly new to me. No one in contracts had ever told me how to go fix the problem. Strikes me that that's kind of what you need up there. So she really proved herself to be a helpmate worthy of trust with innovative ideas. And the City Council is to represent the people of Ridgecrest, and we've heard tonight that most of the Ridgecrest people come from the base or are connected to the base, either by family or by working there or what else. So predominant leadership of the council has been from the business community and naturally is inclined to think business and growth first. Connectivity with the base can also only be good. In fact, without the base, as we've heard tonight, there wouldn't be a Ridgecrest, as we know it, at least. Ridgecrest businesses would really suffer. The government is very reluctant to be directly involved with community matters, yet retirees can help. They understand. Diane can be the helpmate you often desire. She's friendly, sociable, and very well read. She can do quiet research, and this is what everyone should want, and is the kind of person that is a joy to work with. I recommend her to you and hope you will allow her to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you, Monty.
Hi, Lynn Whitcomb, 238 Mesquite Avenue in Ridgecrest. My name's on the list. I won't talk about myself because you have my information on the application. I would be happy to serve if selected, but I would also be happy if Bill Ferris or Ronnie Merrill were selected. Bill Ferris, I know, has deep roots in the community. I really appreciate, as a citizen here, the amount that he invests into the community in terms of charitable events and such. And Ron Merrill, I know quite personally. He's a former naval officer, graduate of the Naval Postgraduate School, has 4 kids. He's a very strong leader, good communicator, good team builder, a man of integrity, and I would endorse either of those men based on my personal knowledge of them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm not used to speaking in front of people or talking about myself, so hopefully that would be a change for you guys. I don't envy your task.
Could you identify yourself?
Sure. My name is Kyle Blades, 813 East Church Street. I was starting to say that I don't envy your task. The names up there are impressive. There's a lot of good people to choose from, so that's good for you. Very good, but hard to choose from, I'm sure. Like I said, my name is Kyle Blades. I'm from this town. I've been around for a long time. My family's from this town. I served in the U.S. Army. After getting out of the Army, I chose to come back to Ridgecrest to raise a family and now serve on the Planning Commission because I would like to be involved. I enjoy getting into the thick of things, understanding the details, and knowing what's going on for the future of my family. I currently work on base, so a lot of this, just like many of you in the community. That's it. I just wanted to introduce myself. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. Matthew Bodwin, 335 West Pilgrim Circle, Ridgecrest, California. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I was on the Planning Commission for a couple of years, a few years back. I served as the chairman of the Planning Commission, served in the Marine Corps, led Marines, led Americans, been a program manager here, and I'm a relative newcomer in Ridgecrest. I've only been here for 21 years compared to some of you folks. Sorry. And no offense. Great. This town is just like my hometown, and I want to see it grow like my hometown because I consider this my hometown. This is where I live. This is where I raised my children. They've all left, but they'll come back someday. They all have to return. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm not going to belabor anything because I'm worried that my sinuses are going to let loose at any minute, and then it won't be a pretty sight, and I don't want to see that on Twitter or anywhere else. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity, and I don't envy your choices. I don't envy your position tonight because, as the previous gentleman stated, you have a long list of impressive people up there. I just hope that the decisions made for the city are for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor, City Councilman. I'm honored to be here. My name is Brian Bunce. I live at 1255 Palo Verde Drive. I came to Ridgecrest 18 years ago this very month. I'm employed at China Lake Naval Weapons Station as an Assistant Radiation Safety Officer. I first came to China Lake in 2001 when I was called to active duty in response to September 11th, 2001 attacks. I was working at Washington State University as a senior nuclear reactor operator, and I was excited to come to China Lake, as Southern California, where I could enjoy sailing and scuba diving in the waters of China Lake. I believe strongly in community service, and I donated my time in Habitat for Humanity, Ronald McDonald House, restorations, Ronald McDonald House restorations, grade school restorations, orphanage restorations, and other volunteer work. Now I helped in Habitat for Humanity houses in 3 houses here and 11 houses overall. Now, sadly, time has taken its toll on my body, but I still wish to help in the community, and I wish to do so through my help in public service. Now, I was involved in high school politics. I attended Boy State, and I rose to senator at Boy State, and I was also a local and district caucus delegate, and I finally I served as a poll worker, and that's my statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, staff, and members of the community. My name's Ernie Bell. Many of you may know me. I've been around Ridgecrest since 1959 and represent 4 generations of family members that live here. So I have a real special interest in this community. My kids have come back, been part of the school district for 35 years. So I've had an opportunity to work with families year after year, outstanding leadership teams year after year, outstanding governance teams representing our district. I would like to be a part of that. I really would. I want to continue with that. I just retired here this last year and have enjoyed a wonderful career. But again, I don't have an agenda to do this other than to serve. This community is important to me. The future of this community. We've heard some outstanding news tonight about what's coming. Rebuilding. I understand the history. I understand the culture. I understand the governance models and so on, and I'd like to be a part of that. So I'm hoping to be considered tonight. I would like to say, looking at this list, it's incredible. It is incredible to see that many names up there and that many folks wanting to be a part of this. I know you have a tough decision, so Again, thank you for this opportunity and appreciate all that you do for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, members of the audience. My name is Diane Fouché. I am number 9 on the list. I would just like to say I think I bring some unique skills and capabilities. I'd like to thank Monty Frisbee for his kind words. I've worked with a lot of the technical users on the base. I have also worked with many of the contractors in our area and many other areas. So through that process, I have been well versed in bringing diverse opinions together, in looking at all aspects of difficult situations, complex situations, working our way through the federal and defense acquisition regulations, as well as policies and procedures, and helping the teams come together to craft win-win solutions. So I feel like I bring the ability to look at all aspects, look at all the facts, look at all the different opinions, and to help bring that together to move forward in a way that would benefit the city. So while I haven't worked in city government or state government, I certainly have a lot of experience in federal government. I've also worked at the national level with the National Contracts Management Association, which is a professional association with chapters all over the world, and worked with them in their creating a new governance organization. So I do feel like I bring a lot of skills and abilities that could benefit the city, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Richard Wagner, 408 South Lincoln. I'm not going to bore you with stories, mainly because I get too nervous when I'm up here. So I just want to give my opinion. Of that list, which is very impressive, I would personally, as a citizen of Ridgecrest, would like to see Garver or Holloway chosen tonight. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Nobody else wishes to speak?
Sorry for the delay. My name's William Carroll. I'm on the list, number 7, which sounds like a lucky number, and who knows. I'd like to talk just briefly and make the statement that we had all filled out this form, so I'm just going to go to the bottom, which says that I am not employed, affiliated with any group or organization or company doing business with the city of Ridgecrest, and I do not have any interest in the job other than to serve and protect the interests of Ridgecrest taxpayers. That said, I will agree with what most people have said. That is a very, very impressive list. And so whether or not I am of a consideration, what is consideration, that is a point of interest for me and most citizens, is that everybody is vetted on that list. And what is of concern is there are certain individuals, I will not name names, but I got this off the internet, it's all public. There are certain people that have had, recently in the last 10 years, have had convictions, have had bankruptcies, liens, and owe the state and federal government taxes. That if you were an employee for the base and you were seeking employment on the base would go back 20 years, and if those red flags popped up, you would not get the job. 80% of the base employees have security clearances. Whether they're even handling classified, they are also handling something that's very, very important, and it's called PII, which is Personal Identification Information. And that, I'm sure, when you talk behind closed doors or sometime will come into your hands. And the vetting process that I ask you to do, or at least can really consider, would be the fact that people that have those liens, convictions, and such, I would not like them handling my PII. So that is the main thing that I wanted to bring up. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Ron Merrill. I'm number 13 on the list up there. I'd like to thank Lynn Whitcomb for his kind words, and just introduce myself to you. Let you know that I came into the community here in 2003 with my family as a active duty Navy officer, supply officer. I've got experience running hotel services, logistics, operating a nuclear submarine. I've been in service my whole life, either serving our country or serving my community, serving where I live, and I would be honored to be able to serve the community of Ridgecrest further as a council member. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, residents of Ridgecrest, my name is Stephen Morgan, and a lot of you know me. Former council member, former planning commissioner, 25 continuous years of service to this city on boards or commissions. This is an 11-month appointment, and I have been keeping in touch with the city staff, and I've been discussing issues with them. I have been attending council meetings. I have been attending committee meetings. I am well versed in the budget. I know that that's important to be cognizant of when you are looking at being on this position. And I know that everyone on this list is more than qualified. But I have the experience that none of these other candidates have, except for Mr. Holloway. And I believe that I believe that is very important to consider. I have also been a part of the JLUS planning group, which looked at the entire airspace of the 2508 complex, involved all of the cities, all of the county, the base that is underlying that. And I worked on that plan. I also was on the Quad State Local Governments Authority. Even after I was off council, when no council member would go, I volunteered to go and represent the city in that board. It was Measure L, back on Measure V. In the community, for the last 25 years prior to last year, I was the chairman of the Community Fireworks Committee. For 25 years, we put on a pretty good show. We built it up fairly well. I think that speaks to my dedication to this community. Also, a long time ago, Scott Brown, who then owned Carriage Inn, and I came up with a plan to go over to England, and we worked with Flight Lieutenant Ian Cunningham to talk to the Hercules Evaluation Unit and the Joint Attack Evaluation Units, the British units that come over here to the base to test. We created a plan to go over there and talk to those two commands to make them understand how important they were to not just the base, but to the community. And I was speaking as a community member, not as a city council member. As a matter of fact, the base legal department made it very clear when they called me into the office that I couldn't speak for the base. So Mr. Brown and I got the base finally to agree to send a representative as well. And that helped keep them coming to China Lake because we looked at them eye to eye. And that money is hundreds of thousands of dollars that has come into this city. So of all the things that I've worked on and that I've done, I believe that I am more than qualified to fill this next 11 months. I will be running for office in 2020, again, because of my 25 straight year commitment to this community. And I am very blessed to have received from the Kern Council of Governments the Ronald E. Brummett Lifetime Achievement Award, and that is from the 13 cities and the county. That award was given to me by the 13 cities and the county, showing that my leadership and my ability to work as a team member was without question. And I also received the Desert Mountain Division Larry Chimboli Award, which was for the Desert Mountain Division cities that the city of Ridgecrest is a part of, showing that I can work as a team member. I believe that I can work with this current council and with the current citizens of this community. I am always open, and I am independent, even though some people have said I am not. I study and I do my homework. And finally, you all know Doc came to the community very shortly ago. I want to read this. Stephen, wow, the stop for Doc at Inyakern was the highlight of our 2020 season. Thank you for all you've done for Doc and for working to host us. Let's do it again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Sarah Warsan, 1140 College Heights. I wanted to urge the council to appoint someone to fill the seat who is neutral on the casino, if that's possible, and also realizes that there are many other important issues to tackle besides the casino. I am concerned that opposition to this casino or strong feeling about this casino is so prevalent that what this choice will come down to is picking a swing voter for different factions. So I'm glad that we got to hear from some of these people. And I'm just urging you to try and pick somebody as impartial as possible on contentious issues for that seat. Thank you.
Thank you. Others?
Dave Matthews. Anybody else on the list here that wants to say anything? Because I'd really like to hear more of the candidates, but if not, I'll go ahead. You got the opportunity, okay.
Well, I think there's some behind you, but you're more than welcome to please speak, sir.
It's quite a list. Quite a list. And I have to be careful here because I might go out of here if I say the wrong thing with a few broken arms or whatever. However, I could tell you who not to appoint, but I won't. Part of the reason that we are here is that because, well, you know the story. It's been in the paper. It's been in the letter to the editor over the weekend. There's a lot of people here that I know, and I have not really been that close to them, but I would at this point suggest that we look at some of the more established people. When I say established, I mean people that have been here for a long time, like Ernie Bell. I've known his in-laws as well. I've also know the Ferrises. So there's just a couple of names I'm throwing out that I kind of represent the type of person I think we ought to look at. Now, Steve Morgan came up here and told me quite a history, which I already knew about, because a lot of that history I went through with Steve. The Desert Advisory Council stuff, the WEMO stuff, A lot of other stuff that he's gone through. He's had quite an accomplishment with his city. One of the things that he didn't mention, and I'll mention it, is the West Ridgecrest Boulevard project. That took stamina, and I'm very impressed with Steve, except for one thing, I think, but I won't mention that. But Steve is a very good... I'm sorry. Starting to break up here myself. Steve is a very good friend, and I would highly consider him, considering I can get his ear on a couple of things. But your job is ahead of you, and I hope you make a good decision. And I've just thrown out a few comments that maybe you could consider. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chip Holloway. I think that list is incredible. Everybody on that list is great except Steve Morgan. He's a bum. I ran for city council in 1998 because I was on the executive board of the Chamber of Commerce, and I was really frustrated, and I didn't know why. And I think I told Lindsay this yesterday. I served up there 16 years, and I left just as frustrated, but I knew why. And the only reason I'm up here tonight is I ran back then because I wanted to help. And it would be criminal for me or Steve not to offer our services after 16 years. Nobody in the history of Ridgecrest has served there longer than me except Steve Morgan. Nobody has ever won 4 terms except myself and Steve Morgan. And there's a quote I like that says, good judgment comes from experience. Unfortunately, that experience comes from bad judgment. So we made some mistakes. Obviously, we'd come up here and tell you all our successes. And we had some great successes, but we did make those mistakes. But those mistakes hopefully would give us better judgment going forward. And I agree with Steve that 11 months, every one of you that's been up there, the learning curve is incredible. And the reason the learning curve is so incredible, no matter how smart you are or what PhD you have or anything else, is so much of what we do up there makes no damn sense. Why we have to do it that way. You know, one of my claims to fame, I was mayor during BRAC. I met with the Undersecretary of the Navy. The IG seems to be pretty popular right now. I had to go before that Inspector General over this situation during BRAC, and it was 5 against 1 in that room. And I had to defend Bill Thomas. I met with another undersecretary in an office storage room in the Pentagon. And he said I was the only mayor during the BRAC process he met with. And I asked him why. He says, because you never betrayed my trust and you never went back to your community and said anything that I conveyed upon you. I got off the council in 2014, but I've maintained my relationship since then. I've traveled to Washington every single year since 2014 and Sacramento. I met with Kevin McCarthy, his chief of staff. I've met with Paul Cook, his staff. And I used to meet with Steve Knight when it was important. Now Steve Knight's gone. I met with Vince Vaughn, Shannon Grove, Rudy Salas, and Jean Fuller when she was up there in Sacramento. Relationships are important. And just a little funny story is 1 hour after the earthquake, I got a call from Bismarck Obando from the League of California Cities. Because President Trump wanted to talk to the mayor. And nobody in Washington, D.C. knew the mayor's cell phone number.
Wait 1 minute. Let me just say this. May I just defend myself?
Oh, I know you were busy, but they didn't have your number at that time.
Well, but they did call, and they kept saying, could you hold for the president? Could you hold for the president? 3 times, about 20 minutes. I finally said, I can't hold any longer. I'm sorry. Tell the president to call me back tomorrow. So, sorry, folks.
The other thing that I was able to accomplish after I got off council, we started it in my third term, was along with the mayor, Eric Bruin of Desert Valleys, and Kyle Lombardi of Kevin McCarthy's staff and Kevin McCarthy, we finally got the per diem change, I think in 2016 or 2017. I continued to work that after I was off of council. So in closing, I know the big elephant in the room is the casino. To me, that's the least of our problems. You've got the GSA, wastewater, payroll, employees pay, a police contract. You've got CalPERS staring you down the throat, and you've got to do something to make sure Measure V gets renewed, because the city will never survive without the revenue base that Measure V creates. So I am perfectly happy not being up there, but I absolutely am willing to serve for 11 months. I do have no desire to run in the next election, although I won't say never, because what typically happens is you start a project and you want to see it through to fruition, and you stay because of that. But I don't have a desire to be up there in a new term, full term. And the other thing, as I put this coat on, this is going to cost me a fortune, because I will have to buy every suit I own. And I have to buy a new suit because I'm so damn fat now. But thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members, and members of the public. My name is Solomon Rajaratnam, 605 Suzanne Street. I'm on the list, Suite 16. Council members, you have my resume, but for the benefit of public, I wanted to make some points. My wife and I moved to Ridgecrest in 1999 along with our 2 children. I have been in banking industry for the past 30 years, and am currently Vice President Branch Manager for Mission Bank Ridgecrest. I have been involved in Ridgecrest community during the past 20 years and have given my evenings and weekends for this community on many occasions. I have been a Rotary Club member for 15 years, having served as Director for Youth Services for a term. As a Rotary Club member, I have been participating in various community projects, scholarship fundraisers, and other events. As a youth director, I took steps to develop leadership skills and service attitude in high school students. I chaired scholarship committees and got to know what an amazing job our local schools do to our youth by reading their applications. I have served as Ridgecrest Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors for 6 years and was past chairman of the board. I have chaired and organized IWE Economic Outlook conferences to the benefit of Ridgecrest community. As a board member, I contributed to manage the chamber during financial problems and helped in writing the revised policy and procedures. I was on the awards committee, chaired and got to know some of the outstanding citizens in Ridgecrest. I have served on Saracosa Community College Foundation and was chairman of the foundation for 1 term, where I contributed to the development of the college by participating in the accreditation program of the college. I have been serving on Ridgecrest Planning Commission for the past 5 years and have been vice chairman of the Planning Commission. During the absence of the chairman, I have chaired the meetings many times. I have learned a lot about our municipal code and other matters. I always did a thorough research on issues that came to Planning Commission for me to take appropriate decisions. The experience will help me a lot when I serve on the City Council. I attend IWE Economic Development Corporation and China Lake Alliance meetings as a representative of Mission Bank, who is a member of these 2 organizations. I attend City Council meetings as often as possible to keep myself abreast of various issues that the City Council is dealing with. I spoke at the City Council meetings whenever I am compelled to speak. I try to follow as much as I can on water issues and casino issues. Being a banker for the past 30 years, I know financing, budgeting, responsible lending, project feasibility, viability, staff relations, and human capital management. I have seen many business plans, some worthless, some so-so, and some very good ones. This experience goes long ways when I serve as city council member. Being a banker and being involved in the community, I know our business community and I know their needs. This will make things easy for me when I deal with them as a city council member. As a branch manager and commercial lender with Mojave Desert Bank and Mission Bank, I have always put Ridgecrest first. I was instrumental in financing construction of commercial projects such as Ridgecrest Cinemas, Nicolette Center, High Desert Haven, Pizza Factory, solar project of Water District, to name a few. This shows my commitment to develop Ridgecrest as a banker. I always worked to fuel and grow Ridgecrest as a vibrant community. And coming to this vacancy on the city council, as everybody said, there are a good number of deserving applicants for the city council vacancy. I have known so many people who are on this list for a long time, who are outstanding people. They all are distinguished people in their own way. Anyway, thank you very much for your time. My time is up.
Finish up your sentence, and if you wanted to, Solomon. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, council members. Bill Ferris, member 4. I submitted my application. I sent in a letter as well, so I'd like to turn this back over to you. If you have any questions for me right now that would help you make a decision, I'd be more than happy to answer those right now.
Bill, do you have any particular concern of where the city is going and how we're going to get there?
Ma'am, I believe the city has a revenue problem, and I've worked with Councilman Stevens, serve on the Economic Development Committee, have gone to ICSC, and am actually proud to say that we've recruited 2 new hotels that have committed to Ridgecrest and 3 fast casual restaurants that we will soon see break ground here. So I'm concerned that the city has a revenue problem, but I also think it's very addressable.
What do you think, since nobody else has asked, so I'm going to ask questions because no one asked me if I had any. I did interview many of the people, but what do you bring that is unique to City Council?
Ma'am, I think I bring a unique perspective, one based on business, common sense, and I also think that with this council here, I would work very well with everybody, and I think that that's what this community is really looking for, is somebody who could unite this council and the community. I'm sorry, I've got a sore throat.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you. Oh.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else who wishes to speak? No public who wishes to speak? Okay, then we are going to take the public comment and council comments off the table now, and it is our turn. So, council, where are we going? Anybody have anything they want to say?
I just first off want to say I really appreciate the list of people. I know many have mentioned this. I think it's quite impressive that we had 17 applicants turn in, and many of these new names to the expressing interest. I spoke to 16 of the 17 applicants. I left a message for the 17th. and spent time interviewing all of them, and I really appreciate the time that all of you took talking with me, and just wanted to express the thanks for willingness to serve our community.
Okay. Mike, I saw you go to the microphone.
I just want to say it's amazing we got this many apply. I hope that we have a lot of them that come out, no matter who we choose tonight or the next few weeks. A lot of people apply for. We got an election coming up, and I think August is when they sign up for it. July. So maybe we'll have a really good group of people that want to serve next year. I personally know 8 of the 17. I consider them all friends. So no matter who I vote for tonight, I hope the rest of you don't get mad at me. But I think there's so many on this list that could serve well. I'm going to list 4 that I know we talked maybe going for 2 or 3 or whatever. I'm going to throw out 4 names. I'm going to throw out Kyle, Warren Cox, Diane Fuscher, is that you pronounce it? And Steve Morgan.
Scott, did you?
Yeah, I hate to repeat what has been repeated so many times tonight, but it is worth repeating. This list is pretty incredible, and I do know most of the people on here, and it's a great thing. But I have to say that it does make our job a little more difficult because there's a lot of good folks to choose from. There's many on here that could serve that position, but our job tonight is to pick one. So to all of you that did put your application in, I commend you. The courage to do that, having been pretty new to this process. I do respect it, and please don't fade off into the sunset. We have committees, we have other positions, we have activities, things in the city that we need good people to come and be a part of. So this is exciting. And so with that, I did come with one person that I narrowed it down to. It took a lot of interviewing, a lot of work, and a lot of late nights, and going through this list over and over and over and over and over. And I kept coming back to one particular individual. I do have 2 or 3, individuals that, or let's say 3 that we had agreed to, that if we could narrow it down to 3, that it might help the process. Even getting to that point was difficult. But anyway, so I have Kyle Blades and Solomon and Bill Ferris is 3 of the choices that I have on the list. So I'll pass the microphone on down. So Lindsay, I think you're up, or Peggy, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
What was your 3? You got Solomon and Kyle and Ferris.
Go ahead,
I would like to go last. Thank you.
Maybe I want to go last.
You want to do rock, paper, scissors?
Okay, well, so I don't know. Is that normal? Like, is it okay to give your top 3, or how? Like, because I feel like
there is no normal.
Okay.
I take that they're nominating potential candidates for discussion
Okay.
and seeing if there's common candidates among the group.
Okay. Yeah, I had a similar, so I kind of went through the list, and being that there was a lot of new people on the list that I wasn't familiar with, that makes it hard, but I really enjoyed talking with all of them, and I think that they would make great candidates. And I would encourage, many of them said that they were interested in running, so I thought that was good. I did think that, some of the names have been up here many times before, and so, I think part of why I was elected was for a fresh view and to bring younger perspective in. And so going through this list, I looked, and I think having a planning commissioner makes sense. And so I think my top 3, I would also like to see Kyle and Solomon and Bill as well. I think that any of those 3 would also be good.
Okay. I have to say the same thing. If you all aren't around here after this is over, I say shame on you, because it's really easy to just put your name up and not have to campaign. I expect all of you to be here next year, because it's time consuming, it's difficult, it is expensive, and it isn't easy, because you want to say what people want to hear. You want to say what you believe and hope they coincide with each other. I got my list down to 7. And I was listening tonight going, how do I do that? I know all of except 4. I know every one of them. I know 7 of them very, very well. And it's very difficult for me, but I am going to do it. And I do have one question. Council, can you tell us if somebody is associated with the city in any way? Because that was one of the questions I had, monetarily.
Yeah,
is that a conflict?
I think there's a couple instances that people have brought to my attention. Solomon works for the bank, is vice president of the bank that the city does business with currently. I also know that Steve Morgan, his wife, is an employee of the city. So both of those things potentially could create conflicts of interest problems. Mm-hmm. There's 2 types of conflict of interest problems. There's the Political Reform Act issues. Those can be avoided if the person is not involved in any of decision-making involving the financial interest, and after notice to the public, abstains and leaves the room if matters are being decided. So that can be worked around. However, there's another type of conflict of interest called the 1090 problem. That has to do with contracts between the city and the financial interest. In this case, it would be a contract perhaps with the bank or some kind of employee agreement with the employee. And the issue there is that those contracts could not, if they were conflicts of interest, and I have not analyze these. You would have to analyze these instances in the context that they came up in. In other words, specifically the contract, specifically what does that do to the financial interest and so on. So if the contract does implicate a conflict of interest, then the contract can't be entered into even if that individual abstains from participating in any way in the contract. So what I can tell you about appointing individuals with that issue is that they can be appointed, but it may have implications on how the city moves forward with those arrangements.
Let me ask a question here. As all of you know, Solomon is my appointment to the Planning Commission, and a dear friend and someone I respect immensely. I don't understand, because it was pointed out to me today that this person thought he had a huge conflict. I haven't said anything to Solomon because we're equal embarrassing people. We're asking you all to spill your guts here tonight, and in front of the public, which is terribly unfair. And so, if he could have a potential conflict with as being a council member, would he have that same conflict as the planning commissioner?
Not necessarily, but remember, you have to analyze a conflict of interest. People throw the term conflict of interest around a lot in conversation, but from a legal standpoint, you have to have the conflict of in connection with the decision that you are making as an official of the city. So if there's no decision being considered, there's no conflict. So it's you have to analyze it under the circumstances that it arises.
Okay.
And so I guess another way to look at it is, frankly, every potential appointee here has a potential conflict. I guess it's possible, because in the future they may have a financial interest with something involving the city. I don't know. We happen to know of these instances, so I think it's fair for me to say and just caution that if you appoint individuals that have this potential, then, like I said, it will affect the city's ability, for example, to contract with the bank going forward.
Okay.
I want some clarification on that, because when I got on the city council, I was told that I had to terminate my relationship with the city. They could not have an account at my store anymore. Now, that was a previous account, but we had to terminate it. So I don't understand the difference between, and I want to say, I've told Solomon this several times. Solomon's my banker. I think he's one of the best bank managers we've ever had in this town. Only one exception above him. Well, that was when I was vice president of BFA. But I am concerned, Solomon, if you were appointed. Peggy and I both, as business people, have been hurt financially by serving on the city council for people that get mad at us and won't do business with us. I do not want to see Mission Bank financially hurt by you serving on the city council, and that's my position with you, Solomon.
Are you looking for an answer from me on that, or?
Well, apparently what you're saying is with us, we can continue to do banking with them, but couldn't enter any new contracts.
I'm not saying you could continue to do banking with them. I'm saying you could appoint them. It might affect that banking relationship. I'd have to take a look at it.
Oh, okay. So because I was just looking at that as similar with my relationship.
Right, and part of the answer to that involves an analysis of when contracts arrive and what the decision-making process is, for example, for each purchase that's being made under a continuing contract. What is the decision point and what is the contract?
Let me ask a question here, because we closed the time for the public to speak. We have mentioned specifically Solomon. I would like to give him that opportunity. Am I being unfair if we allow him the opportunity to answer that? Anything? Somebody tell me, counsel.
I'm not the fairness ombudsman, but you're free to you control the meeting, Madam
I think
Mayor.
Since we specifically mentioned you, Solomon, I think it's appropriate if you want to say something. Does anybody on the council have an objection to that?
No.
Okay,
No.
Please, Solomon, come up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. City Attorney is right. I did some research on this. As per FPPC, nothing in the Act or its conflict of interest rules prevent a public official from seeking or holding a particular employment position, whether public or private. A conflict of interest may arise only after a person takes office and is dependent on that person's conduct subsequent to taking office. So please note that. And then it says conflict of interest, a term used to describe the situation in which a public official or fiduciary who, contrary to the obligation and absolute duty to act for the benefit of the public or a designated individual, exploits the relationship for personal benefit, typically pecuniary, that is monetary, involving money. So that's when the conflict of interest comes. My being a banker to the city, I am not gaining anything financially. I am not having any self-interest by serving the city with their account. So, I mean to say, if city is making a deposit, I am not trying to do anything. If city is withdrawing, I am not trying to restrict them. So it is their money and they take care of that. Somebody mentioned I look at the budget and the city account. So what is wrong in that? I mean, is there some fishy thing going behind so that people should not know? So anybody can look at budget. Anybody could look at city statement. So there is no conflict of interest. And FPPC is clearly quoted on those aspects. I just wanted to mention that to you. So as city attorney said, there might be a conflict of interest in everybody's case. I mean, I'm not saying it's a conflict of interest. Mike Moore has his store. So somebody can say he is favoring a person who is buying from his store, which is not right. And mayor has a swap sheet. Somebody might say, you are favoring that person who is advertising in your paper, which is not right. So these are all the examples. Even anybody can come out and say you have a conflict of interest. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Can I clarify something? Just so it's clear, that general definition of conflict of interest is not the legal definition of conflict of interest. In other words, the legal definition of conflict of interest doesn't require that somebody is doing something with bad intent. It simply requires that a decision impacts a financial interest using the very particular term of financial interest as defined in the law, which is a little bit like reading the tax code. So if there is a financial interest and the decision impacts a financial interest, then legally speaking, there will be a conflict of interest, even if the person's acting in good faith, and even if the arrangement is to the benefit of the city. So just bear in mind, it doesn't require bad intent. And I guess my point is, just be aware that if, again, you're not precluded from making this appointment, but again, it could adversely impact the city's ability to do business with the bank going forward.
Okay, all right. We have closed public speaking time.
I'm not discussing as a candidate, but in help to you, may I check something?
I think it's unfair unless we allow everybody else to come back up again.
Everything should have been vetted before we...
Thank you. The other concern, I've heard some of the candidates say, you in particular, sir, that you made the allegation that there were illegal activities or whatever it was, potential wrongdoing, or just plain derogatory statements about other candidates. If it was a general election, we would not be probably seeing, I saw that I saw that Scott O'Neill got arrested for drunk driving last night and hit 3 people and what a bad man he is. Whether he did or not, it is not part of the conduct of tonight. Because, Scott, I'm sorry I used you, but I knew I could do it. So, but it seems to me it's not appropriate to question whether these are all good people. So I would like to see the opportunity for if anybody has any reason that they would like to withdraw, so it's going to come out if something is there that you may not wish, like you went out last night and hit 3 people and you were drunk driving. I don't want to see embarrass people. And so that's my biggest concern, because we need every one of you back. We need every one of you to serve. And so, Solomon, I have to say this. I love, respect. You are my appointment to the Planning Commission. I have not missed a single Planning Commission, and you have done an extraordinary job. Your homework is impeccable. There is nothing I could complain about, but I don't want to see the bank hurt, any more than I want to see the city hurt. Is it my job to be the guardian of the bank? Absolutely not. But it is my job because I know we got the best opportunity we have when we moved our money to your bank. I don't want to have to lose that opportunity or lose you. So you were going to be one of mine, and I have to tell you my sincere apology, but I can't. And if you want to be angry at me or call my loan, I'm sorry. So, yeah. So, so I'm going to have to cut down my 7 people to 3. So, and I'm sorry, Solomon. This hurts me more than you, I bet. Almost.
Solomon was 4 people?
Yeah.
She's not, math isn't her strong suit.
Yeah.
It's going from 7 to 3 because of Solomon. I'm sorry, Solomon.
Okay. So, okay. I'm going to say Bill Ferris, Ernie Bell, and my concern with you, Steve, is Doreen working here.
May I comment to that?
If you wanted to, that's why I offered you the opportunity to come up, because you were specifically named.
Yes. When Harvey Rose hired my wife, he went to the city attorney and had a long conversation with them. And the city attorney said there was no conflict. However, if there was ever a contract negotiation with the Ridgecrest City employees, not pair, just race, which is now UFCW 8, that I couldn't participate in that single discussion. That's it. And that's not something that is overtly terrible.
I don't think it's terrible. I just don't want to see.
Am I wrong?
That's correct. We also couldn't modify her contract at all while you were on the city council.
That's correct.
Yeah. That's the point I was making earlier.
Yes, and let's also remember that a former council member, his wife was a manager in the Parks and Recreation Department, and nobody said a word then. So it's been done. I served. I had no conflict, no matter what Lindsay Stevens thinks, and that's the truth. It's not an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm going to make a motion, if that's legal.
All right, please, let's just make it quick, please, because we want to come to some resolution if we can.
Madam Mayor, as Solomon's walking up, we do have the ability to vote electronically, but we'd have to take just a short break so they could test it first if you guys chose to do it that way, or you could do roll call. It's up to you.
We've done roll call the rest of the evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roll call's fine. I don't want to wait.
Okay. Solomon?
Madam Mayor, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And I appreciate Councilman Dr. Heyman, Councilman Lindsay Stevens, and you supposed to be nominating me. But if city attorney really feels there is a conflict of interest, if you are sure about that, I want to withdraw my application.
What a gentlemanly thing to do. You are a man of your word and a man of honor.
And thank you very much for
you.
giving me this opportunity to apply.
Thank you very much, Solomon.
I'd like to comment on that.
Okay.
Solomon, you have my utmost respect. I've known you for a lot of years and been my banker for a lot of years too. So it's and he is a man of integrity, and have a lot of respect for you.
Thank you. He is, I can't say any more positive about you because I'm going to start crying because I respect you so much. Okay, so I have to come up with then Sorry. Mike, you wanted to say something.
I wanted to make a motion, but if you're not ready for me to do that, that's fine.
There was someone that all three of us said.
I was going to make a motion that we appoint Kyle Blades as fill the city council seat.
I second that motion.
He's kind of a neutral person. He's had some experience on the planning commission. I know I can argue in favor of a lot of different candidates tonight, but I know that some of them will be very divisive in the community, whether they deserve the position or not. And I think Kyle's kind of a neutral person. I don't think he's going to cause any disruption in the community.
Good. Okay. I'd like to take off from where Councilman Mauer just left off. After listening, to everybody, and I've worked with Kyle before, and I've spoke with him on numerous occasions, and the one term that I keep going back to is humble, because the man is extremely humble. When he got up and spoke, there was little self and me in there, and but if you know Kyle, there's a whole lot of person there. There's an outstanding young man. He served his country. He didn't just serve it. He did it in a way above and beyond the average serviceman's service. I commend him for that. He came back to Ridgecrest to raise his family, and he chose to live here and raise his family. He's vested in this community. He brings with him youth, and with that, I think that is critically important, because with the youthfulness of him, he brings his generation's thoughts, their beliefs, and it's different. When I spoke with him, I had to kind of sit back and go, gosh, I've become the old guy. and it changed my perspective, and I thought, when we have an opportunity, when someone presents themselves that is young, that is willing to do this, because this is a pretty overall thankless job. I think all of you that are here tonight, I don't mean that comment to you, because you people are here. But when you go out into public, we all know, the negative side effects, or side effects sound like I'm back at work. But we know what I'm addressing there. But so the bottom line is, I think he brings a balance to this council. He is neutral on the casino, and I think that's important in today's divisive, whatever you want to call atmosphere. Thank you. I think that's a good quality. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out. And I also want to reiterate again, thank you to everybody that has, put their name in this hat, because it is a tough call. Just some of the stuff that we've had to deal with tonight, it's not fun for us on that end. But the fun part is that we have so many great people to pick from. So, yeah, that's it from me.
So for clarity, that's a second?
That's a second.
Are we ready for a vote? Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
4 ayes. We have an appointed new council member.
Kyle, can you come up here, please?
Now,
Kyle?
What was on potentially was swearing in tonight. So did you want that done tonight, or did you want
I would like to, I'd like to see him hit the road working. Hit the road? Not hit the road. Hit the...
There's some advantages to swearing him in tonight. It would give us the
I would
opportunity
like
to brief
to
him on
get
things that are
started.
pending.
I concur.
Kyle, come join me up here.
So, can we come up with you? We'd like to stand behind you.
You make me get up?
All right, Mike doesn't want to stand behind you.
Just roll him down.
Wait a minute, Mike. Sit there. I'll roll you down. Just roll you down. Let me roll you. See how you're going
I was hoping the mayor would take that one.
No, this is going to be you.
You can roll him down yourself.
See how you're going to get treated now?
I see already.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Kyle Blades,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the
Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
To the Constitution of the United States.
To the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation.
Without any mental reservation.
Or purpose of evasion.
Or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully.
And that I will well and faithfully.
Discharge the duties.
Discharge the duties.
Upon which I'm about to enter.
Upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Welcome. Thank you. So you want to come up here and sit?
Oh, already.
Oh, my goodness.
What are these words?
That's true.
Welcome to your new seat. Come join us. Okay, so I didn't think we were going to get that done tonight. I'm very proud of all of you and our council. So, where are we? Okay. The next item is committee reports, finance.
Finance.
You, Scott.
Finance did meet. We discussed the employee compensation study that is being done, and so this is a work in progress. So we're in the comparative cities that are closest to what we have here in the demographic area. So they're working on that. And that was really about, well, other than the ROPS that we made a decision on tonight already. So that was the other part of it. But so that was it for finance.
Okay, the next committee, since I gave my list away, what's the next committee?
Infrastructure, we did not meet.
We did not meet.
Okay.
Your mic's not on, Mike.
We did, infrastructure did not meet. We're not going to have a meeting in December, so our next meeting will be the fourth Thursday of January.
Okay, economic development?
We did not meet. We just discussed the Buxton contract.
Okay, Parks and Rec.
We will be meeting the first Tuesday in January, and we will be discussing the bicycles at the skate park.
Good. Okay.
Youth Advisory, I just want to thank them. They did a fantastic job. I was really impressed. They organized the crafts this year all on their own before the tree lighting, and a number of them showed up, and they were very well organized. So I thought they did a good job this year.
It was a great job. Thank you. Can I ask a question, staff? Committees that are vacant because of Mr. Martin, does Kyle just go into those committees, or do we ask him what he wants to do, or how does that work?
There is no set rule. As I recall, our system is that the mayor appoints people to the committees. So I guess you could wave your gavel at him and say you're appointed, or...
So is that considered an action item, though?
That's an action item.
And it's
We
an
had a
action
vote
item
on
not
it.
listed on it?
Yeah, but you appoint by majority.
Yeah, we can put it on the next agenda.
Yeah,
And
That was my
The
plan.
approval.
I think economic development, he already served. You served on it as the
But then
planning
another
commissioner.
planning
So
commissioner could
yeah,
come in.
so he could
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
attend that one.
And the RACVB is vacant.
So
Yeah, Madam Mayor, we do have a report on that tonight. I do have
Okay.
Melissa and Chetta that can come up and
Okay,
can
all
report
right.
on today's meeting.
Okay. All right, well, then we'll go to other boards, committees, and commissions.
Kerncog is dark this month, so no meeting this month. It'd normally be tomorrow. So I'll be attending the regular meeting. No one attended in November because I was in the hospital. And so anyway, that's the only other committee I'm on.
Okay, city manager's report.
I have none at this time.
Okay, future agenda
A
items?
future
Anybody?
agenda item, we need to put on the next agenda, appointment of planning commissioners.
Well, that's what we were just discussing.
Okay, well, it wasn't, we hadn't got to that part yet. Anyway.
We were
and-
just
and-
discussing how that was going to work and if there was two that needed to be filled or just one.
There's two. You both, because
Well,
now,
there-
I would suggest Bill Ferris be considered by one of you since he's been serving. He was Wallace's appointment. Just throw that name out because he's up to snuff. We wouldn't be starting.
Are they having a planning commission meeting?
Yes, we are having a special meeting. It's an important meeting. It's regarding that affordable housing. I do believe we're having it next Wednesday, and then with Mr. Blades being sworn in tonight, we're down to 4, so we should be okay.
So he stays on. Bill will stay
Correct.
on. Okay.
And it's Wednesday, the 8th, not next Wednesday.
Yeah, not
It's
next
January
Wednesday.
8th.
Oh, yeah, January. I'm sorry. It's
That's
okay long.
I'm going Christmas Day.
All right.
So the new planning commissioners wouldn't be appointed until January 15th?
Right.
Okay. That's when you'll have to come back with your appointments.
I have to say this, I think I'm the only council member who, and unfortunately, that doesn't make me any better or any worse, but I've attended every planning commission meeting since day one, and I'm very proud of the work that Mr. Ferris does. So
I think staff's recommendation would be to keep him on the planning commission because he does add value.
I mean, whether he wants to stay or not, you know. Okay.
Madam Mayor, we do have a report on the RACBB from Ms. Anchetta. She's ready.
Okay. Go ahead.
Madam Mayor and members of the council and the community, this is the RACV committee report. The first item on the agenda was obviously introducing me as the RACVB director representing the city. And then we went over housekeeping, we went over agendas and approved minutes. We reviewed the budgets for October and November. And we also discussed the 2020 budget and came up with a deadline. We also addressed the signs on 395 that the lights have gone out, and so repairs have been scheduled. We also have discussed the Welcome Center. That has been secured, but they're looking to solidify a location. Also, there was an update with the Ridgecrest Film Commission. They participated in an award show, COLA, California On Location Awards. They also attended the statewide meeting. They were a sponsor, and they had ads put up in that publication. And then the film report, unfortunately, we're seeing negative effects from the earthquakes. We had many productions cancel in the month of July, and we haven't seen too much of a pickup since then. October has, picked up a little bit, but comparatively to 2018, it has gone down. And that is the end of my report. Thank you.
Could you introduce yourself to the public? Because
Yes.
most people, I'm sure, don't have any idea who you are or what you do or anything, please.
Hello, public. My name is Melissa Anchetta. I'm the new administrative analyst for the Economic Development Department here at the city. So that is me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Then we are at mayor and council comments.
I was just going to say, I just want to thank the staff for another year of hard work and want to wish them a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So,
Yep, I want to just wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and we will see you next year.
See you next year.
Oh, wow. I want to say the same thing, except please, all of you who were not selected tonight, please come back and offer your services. We have committees, we have work that needs to be done, and the unique perspective that you bring is very, very needed. So don't take this as rejection, but an invitation. And I thank you all. Sir, last, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I suppose I should. First of all, thank the council. Thank you for your faith in me. I'd also like to say to the public that I understand the gravity of a decision like this and an appointment like this and how abnormal it is. I understand that as a voter you might feel disenfranchised, that maybe you weren't heard. And this is it was a rough appointment. It was a rough situation. And so I hope to hit the ground running and working with everybody and just get work done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll adjourn the meeting, and thank you all for coming.